When the Winter War erupted in 1939, few believed Finland stood a chance. The country faced the Soviet Union's massive military machine, which possessed vastly more men, tanks, and aircraft. Finland lacked almost all modern weaponry, but in one area, this small northern nation was vastly superior. That was creativity and cold-blooded ingenuity. The Finns were forced to invent their own weapons just to survive. In the trenches, deep forests, and secret laboratories, innovations were born that changed the history of warfare. Some of these inventions were so effective that superpowers copied them directly. Others were simple everyday insights that saved thousands of lives through improved hygiene and mobility. In this video, we will count down the top 10 Finnish military innovations and inventions. In the autumn of 1944, Finland was forced to make difficult decisions as the war against the Soviet Union was coming to an end. The military leadership realized that the country's top-secret radio intelligence and its archives were in danger of falling into enemy hands. If the Soviets captured the broken codes and secrets, the consequences would be catastrophic for the nation's independence. Thus, Operation Stella Polaris was born. The purpose of the operation was to secretly evacuate Finland's intelligence equipment, archives, and best codebreakers with their families to Sweden. In mid-September, ships departed from coastal towns, carrying hundreds of boxes filled with secret documents and radio gear. About 750 intelligence experts also moved to Sweden. This was a massive operation executed in complete secrecy from the official government. In Sweden, the intelligence material was microfilmed, and some of it was hidden across the country in shoeboxes for safety. Finnish radio intelligence had been world-class, capable of breaking the Soviet Union's most difficult diplomatic codes. Sweden was highly interested in the operation, as it gained access to invaluable data regarding their eastern neighbors' radio traffic and decryption methods. Although Operation Stella Polaris was later exposed, causing a major political scandal and arrests in Finland, it fulfilled its main goal. It prevented vital Finnish intelligence data from falling into the hands of the Soviet Control Commission at a critical moment. This ingenious and daring evacuation ensured that the secrets of the Finnish state remained safe during the difficult post-war years. In World War II, weapons alone did not decide battles. The ability to survive in Arctic conditions did. While the Soviet army moved with heavy vehicles and was confined to plowed roads, Finnish soldiers took control of the untouched forests. This was made possible by a mobility system centered around soldiers on skis and the lightweight snow gliding sleds, known as akios, which they pulled behind them. The sleds were made of wood or plywood, optimized to withstand heavy wear and extreme frost. Everything needed was carried in the sled: heavy, automatic weapons, ammunition, rations, and medical supplies. Sleds were also used to evacuate wounded soldiers from the front lines directly through deep snow. Thanks to this, Finnish guerrilla units could operate completely independently for weeks in the wilderness. Another cornerstone of mobile warfare was the patrol tent and its lightweight stove. The squad tent could accommodate about 10 to 20 soldiers at a time. The tent was quick to pitch and strike directly into the snowbank. Most importantly, the tent fabric was designed to trap heat and insulate against the cold, providing soldiers with a vital place to rest even in temperatures reaching -40 degrees. This mobile supply system formed the basis of Finnish tactical superiority in the wilderness. Because soldiers could sleep in the warmth and their supplies moved with them in the forest, they were able to encircle large enemy road columns. Sleds and patrol tents turned the harsh winter into Finland's best ally, proving that functional logistics are often more effective than mere heavy weaponry. In the freezing cold of the Winter War, the survival of Finnish soldiers depended on patrol tents and the metal stoves glowing inside them. The stove kept the troops operational, but it posed a deadly problem. In the dark wilderness, glowing sparks rising from the stove's chimney would act like a beacon. Enemy night bombers and long-range patrols could easily spot them from miles away. To solve this fatal problem, the Finns developed a spark arrestor installed inside the chimney. It was a simple metal structure that forced the hot smoke and gases rising from the pipe to take a detour before escaping into the open air. This mechanical barrier caused the glowing and heavier particles to collide with the walls, losing their momentum and extinguishing safely inside the pipe. The invention was a tactical triumph that turned the dark forest into a protective shield. Soldiers could sleep in total warmth and dry their gear without fear that the chimney would betray their position. Meanwhile, enemy troops often suffered due to flammable tents and sparking heaters, where they had to shiver in the freezing cold out of fear of revealing their camp locations to the Finns. The spark arrestor is a prime example of Finnish military innovation, where a small and cheap equipment modification achieved a massive strategic advantage. It shows how precisely the Finns understood the demands of Arctic warfare. This invisible protector saved thousands of soldiers from surprise attacks. And the same basic concept is still used in military tents to this day. At the outbreak of the Winter War, the Finnish army suffered from a desperate lack of modern anti-tank weapons. As hundreds of Soviet tanks surged across the border, the Finns had to create something new and effective from existing materials. The solution was the satchel charge, developed by Captain Carlo Tuminen. It was a raw, simple, and extremely destructive weapon that became Finland's main shield against enemy armor. The satchel charge was made by binding several kilograms of TNT explosives into a tight block around a standard stick grenade. Different weight versions were made for various targets. A 2-kilogram charge was enough to destroy light tanks and tracks, while the largest, weighing 6 kilograms, could breach steel armor up to 30 millimeters thick. Its explosive power was so immense that it ripped tank turrets completely off. The greatest challenge of the weapon was its short range. Because the satchel charge was heavy, a soldier could not throw it far. Anti-tank squads had to wait in hiding inside trenches or behind trees until the enemy tank drove right up to them. The soldier then had to sprint next to the vehicle, light the fuse, and toss the charge onto the tank's engine deck or tracks. This required exceptional cold-blooded courage. Although using the satchel charge was highly dangerous, it proved to be exceptionally effective in the Winter War. Finnish soldiers used them to destroy hundreds of Soviet tanks, halting entire armored columns on narrow forest roads. The satchel charge has gone down in history as a symbol of Finnish grit and ingenuity, which replaced missing heavy weaponry and saved the nation from certain doom at critical moments. During World War II, the Finnish military suffered a desperate shortage of aircraft and artillery pieces. Every single lost plane or artillery gun was an irreplaceable blow. To solve this critical problem, the Finns developed an extensive deception system centered around full-size dummy aircraft and artillery built from wood and plywood. These decoys were placed in highly visible areas on specially built, fake airfields. The fake planes were built in meticulous detail to mirror real Finnish fighters, painted with the exact same camouflage and insignia. To make the deception perfect, Finnish soldiers created tracks in the snow and left marks on the ground. From the air, it looked like a bustling hub of constant military activity. Soviet reconnaissance planes photographed these sites, believing they had found real bases. This cheap and ingenious invention worked flawlessly. Enemy bombers dropped tons of explosives and wasted their expensive ammunition, supplies on nothing but cheap timber and plywood. Meanwhile, Finland's real and scarce warplanes remained completely undamaged and operational at their genuine, cleverly camouflaged airfields hidden deep in the forests. Decoys were also used on the front lines to deter the enemy. The decoys proved that warfare could be waged with intellect against material superiority. This innovation saved a large portion of Finland's air fleet and artillery during the heaviest bombing phases. It forced the enemy to waste their resources on empty targets, demonstrating that cheap and creative construction materials could achieve a major strategic advantage while protecting precious lives and equipment. During the long trench warfare phase, Finnish soldiers began building something behind the front lines that astonished foreign observers. They constructed fully functional saunas underground as part of the trench defense system. However, the dugout sauna was not just about comfort or luxury in harsh conditions. It was a strategically vital innovation that played a decisive role in maintaining the healthcare of Finnish soldiers. On the front lines, the greatest enemy was not always enemy bullets, but poor hygiene and the diseases that followed. In the dirty trenches, body lice were a constant plague, spreading dangerous typhus. The heat and steam of the dugout sauna were the only effective means to destroy lice and their eggs from the soldiers' clothes and gear. The sauna provided a way to clean up properly, even when it was freezing outside. Saunas were built with incredible creativity from almost any available material. Stoves were laid from natural stones, empty barrels, and even discarded artillery shell casings. Water was heated next to stoves or directly on top of them. Dugout saunas were so skillfully crafted underground beneath thick log roofs that they could withstand enemy artillery fire and remained completely invisible to aerial reconnaissance. In addition to hygiene, the dugout sauna had a massive psychological impact on troop morale and stress relief. It offered a momentary escape from the horrors of war and reminded soldiers of home and peacetime. This Finnish innovation kept the army healthy and operational in situations where other armies suffered from massive epidemics. It proved that a soldier's cleanliness and mental well-being are as vital as ammunition. During World War II, Finland faced a severe economic blockade, meaning textiles, leather, fuel, and food could no longer be imported. This desperate shortage threatened to paralyze both military supply chains and civilian life. In this critical situation, the Finnish wood processing industry was harnessed to create incredible inventions. The solution was a highly durable paper fabric manufactured entirely from wood cellulose. The paper fabric was engineered to be tough and was used to make snowsuits, tents, backpacks, mats, and even shoe parts for the front lines. It successfully replaced missing cotton and wool. At the same time, hundreds of other substitutes were invented to counter everyday shortages. The most famous was the wood gas generator, or wood gas stove, mounted on vehicles to convert wood chips into combustible gas. Thanks to these wood gas generators, military supply trucks and domestic emergency vehicles were kept moving without foreign petrol. In the kitchens, wood and nature also came to the rescue. Coffee was substituted by roasting rye grains, dandelion roots, or chicory. Even soap was manufactured from local raw ingredients, and sweets were replaced with treats made from carrots. Ingenuity was a survival requirement. Wood-based innovations and substitutes demonstrated how an entire society could adapt and survive in an extreme crisis. Without these inventions, the Finnish army would have lacked gear, and logistics would have run out of fuel. It turned Finland's green gold, its forests, into a strategic raw material that guaranteed national self-sufficiency and helped keep the wheels of society turning through difficult war years. In the 1930s, weapon designer Amo Lottie developed a weapon that became one of the most iconic and effective firearms of World War II. This was the Suomi submachine gun, KP-31. Before the Winter War, many military experts dismissed submachine guns as ineffective police weapons, but the Finnish army recognized their value in mobile forest warfare. The KP-31 provided small infantry units with immense firepower against Soviet masses. The greatest advantage of the Suomi submachine gun lay in its extreme reliability and craftsmanship. Built from high-quality steel, it operated flawlessly in Finland's harsh winters, down to -40 degrees, where enemy weapons frequently jammed. The barrel could be replaced in seconds mid-battle if it overheated during intense firefights. Thanks to its long barrel, the KP-31 was also exceptionally accurate for its class. Another ingenious feature was the weapon's 70-round drum magazine. It fed ammunition reliably and allowed for sustained automatic fire without constant reloading. This high volume of fire was perfect for the surprise ambush tactics favored by Finns in the wilderness. The enemy quickly realized its superiority, and the Soviet Union directly copied the Finnish drum magazine design for their own famous PPG-41 submachine guns. The Suomi KP-31 was not just a firearm. It transformed infantry battle tactics globally. It proved that a lightweight, fast-moving soldier, armed with high firepower, could dominate the battlefield and halt a much larger enemy force. The weapon became the Finnish soldiers' most trusted companion, and its battlefield effectiveness helped secure Finland's independence during the most difficult moments in its history. When massive armored Soviet divisions surged across Finland's eastern border, they quickly ran into trouble. The Finnish army lacked the numbers to halt these masses in open conventional warfare. The solution was the legendary Marty tactics. This strategic innovation leveraged Finland's dense forests and harsh winter to neutralize the enemy's numerical superiority, forcing their heavy columns onto narrow wilderness roads. The word Marty means a stack of firewood, and the tactic functioned exactly like its name. Finnish guerrilla units allowed enemy march columns to advance deep into forest roads before launching ambush strikes at the front and rear. Once the road was blocked at both ends, the Soviet troops were trapped with no escape route. The long, clumsy column was then chopped into smaller, isolated pockets, known as motis. Once the large enemy force was divided into smaller motis, the Finns left them surrounded. Freezing temperatures, starvation, and constant harassment weakened the trapped troops day by day. Enemy tanks and heavy equipment became useless burdens as fuel and ammunition ran out. The Finns could then eliminate these pockets, one by one, on their own schedule, utilizing high mobility on skis and white snowsuit. The Marty tactics achieved global fame, especially at the Battle of Rahit Road, where a small Finnish force destroyed an entire Soviet division and captured vast amounts of equipment. This tactic proved that military superiority could be cancelled out with smart strategy and terrain knowledge. Marty tactics remain in military history as one of the most effective ways to wage guerrilla warfare against a superpower. At the top of our list is a weapon that became the global symbol of Finnish resistance and grit, the Molotov Cocktail. Although primitive incendiary bottles had been used before globally, the Finns transformed this improvised weapon into a standardized, industrially manufactured mass product. It became the small nation's most critical and cheapest close-range weapon against the onslaught of enemy tanks. The weapon's name was an ironic greeting to Soviet Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov. Molotov claimed in radio broadcasts that Soviet cluster bombs dropped on Finland were actually airborne food aid for starving Finns. The Finns dubbed these bombs Molotov's breadbaskets and developed the incendiary bottle as a companion. Soldiers at the front joked they were offering Molotov a drink to go with the food. The innovation was backed by the state alcohol monopoly, Alco. The Rajamki distillery was quickly repurposed to produce these weapons, turning out over 500,000 bottles during the war. The glass bottles were filled with a sticky mix of petrol, tar, and alcohol. The tar ensured a burning liquid clung to the tank. 2 long store matches were strapped to the sides, capable of burning even in fierce gales. The weapon was devastatingly effective when thrown onto the engine grates of Soviet tanks. The flames and thick smoke were sucked into the air intakes, igniting the fuel and disabling the vehicle. The Molotov cocktail proved how a simple, everyday object could be turned into a potent weapon. It gave infantry the confidence that a mere bottle could destroy steel war machines and halt the enemy advance. These 10 innovations demonstrate how Finland survived the grueling years of World War II, when equipment and manpower were scarce. The lack of resources was compensated for by tactical intellect, cold-blooded courage, and the ability to adapt to the harsh northern environment. Finnish ingenuity in the trenches and on the home front saved the nation's independence and permanently altered the course of military history.